Hello anime lovers, here speaking your captain. If you like it, click on like and subscribe to the channel, pretty please. Masamune leaves the bath and goes to his room full of training equipment to check his shape. His sister calls him a narcissist because he does this every day. He really thinks highly of himself. He looks at an old photo, saying that he made the decision to never be the weak and innocent person he was again. His mother prepares a breakfast full of sugar and calories, but he rejects it. She says he hates her, just when they started living together again. For Masamune, everything is about being good looking. He walks past a tennis court and the girls approach him, interested because he aced the transfer test. Masamune says he was just observing their effort and to keep it up, and they become infatuated with him. When he arrives at school, there is a crowd gathered because a boy is going to confess to the brutal princess. The students comment that she rejected everyone, but since he's handsome, it might work. She thanks him for his request for a relationship and says that she had one of her mates find out information about him. She begins to reveal that he bought a dubious romance novel, and was observing the arms of younger female students, and even posted a fanfic online, and she ends her speech by giving him a humiliating nickname. Masamune ends up locking eyes with her and begins to have a nightmare in the classroom, remembering when he was rejected. The class representative introduces herself, and Shuri arrives shortly after, giving him a calorie-filled bread and complimenting him for having good grades, being good-looking, and not being arrogant, but that there is someone else as talented as he is. The girl from earlier enters the room, and she goes straight to Masamune to ask if Tanabe is there. The boy stands up, and she begins to read the declaration he made by letter, tearing it up and calling him the Prince of Fools. Masamune asks what the problem is with that girl, and Shuri says that she's beautiful, has the best grades, but hates all the boys and rejects all of them, giving them cruel nicknames. Her name is Aki, but they call her the brutal princess. When he hears her name, he runs to the door, exchanging glances once again. He didn't expect to see her so quickly again. He gathers information about her from Shuri, who says that she likes to have lunch alone, and that the girls like her brusque manner. Masamune decides to investigate her but loses sight of her until one of her accomplices comes. He follows her to a warehouse and sees her deliver a metal box but ends up startling himself with a spider. Masamune ends up noticing several plates of food until he hears her stomach growling. Aki says she had an illness and can't eat like a normal person. He says he needs to go somewhere, and Aki says he'll regret it if he tells her secret. He knows he has a certain advantage now, and Shuri says they are saying he's doing well with Aki. In reality, she's doing everything to annoy him. She sends a message telling him to go back to the kennel. The boy who was rejected by Aki passes by him, telling him not to think too highly of himself. On the way out of school, Aki says goodbye to her friends and asks Yoshino to buy her something to eat because she's about to pass out from hunger. While she waits, the boy she rejected appears and asks if she's in a hurry because she's going on a date with Masamune. She calls him by his nickname but he gets angry, telling her to shut up. He pulls her hair, accusing her of despising anyone who isn't handsome. He pulls out a pair of scissors to cut her hair, but Masamune appears and saves her. He tries to pretend that the cut from the scissors doesn't hurt and looks at her, saying that she looks prettier when she smiles. In the past, he was bullied for being overweight, and Aki was his savior. However, when he confessed his love for her, she said she would never fall for him and gave him the nickname Piggy. Masamune wants to get revenge on her by doing whatever it takes to make her fall in love with him. When that happens, he will reveal his true identity and reject her, laughing evilly. His mother thinks he is in a good mood today. The next day, the rejected boy apologizes, and the girls are curious about what happened, but Masamune says it's a secret. When a letter falls out of his locker with the word Piggy written on it, he thinks he's been found out. In class, a student says pig's foot, making him so nervous he falls to the ground. Masamune doesn't want to go through that humiliation again. Even though the girls are nice to him because he's handsome, he knows they will treat him badly once they find out how he used to look. After school, he thinks that if Aki finds out, all the training he did with his grandfather for 8 years will have been for nothing. He even changed his surname. The students rush to the cafeteria and end up throwing Yoshino aside, revealing her skirt. Masamune helps her up and she hands him a shopping list for Aki. He asks to accompany her and notices that she looks like Cinderella being exploited by her evil stepmother. Yoshino goes to buy tea, and he goes into the storeroom. Aki asks him how he's doing, and Masamune says his hand only hurts when he takes a bath. He realizes that she wasn't the one who sent the letter. When Yoshino returns, she falls and exposes everything, and Aki hits his hand to keep him from seeing. Masamune says that maybe she wants to depend on him more, leaving her blushing. He took that line from a manga he read. On the way home, he falls into a trap and is called Pig's Foot again. Yoshino asks if he's trying to get revenge on Aki, but Masamune asks how she knows his old nickname and remembers her as a child in Aki's mansion. Yoshino says her family has been serving Aki's family for 300 years, and Masamune thinks it's the end of his revenge. However, Yoshino says she will help him. The next day, Masamune thinks it might be a trap and decides not to change his revenge plan. Futaba arrives and says she will do anything to please him, even planning a barbecue meeting. Masamune wants Aki's number, but he decides to test with Futaba first by asking for her number. He realizes that she has no contacts and runs to the classroom to ask his friend if all contacts are shared when someone exchanges numbers. Shuri says no. The cleaning committee asks for Futaba's help, but she is busy. Masamune volunteers to help them to get closer to Aki. When he arrives, she ignores him, making him think his plan was crazy. Futaba arrives, talking about the barbecue, but invites him to the cinema. He starts imagining what could happen and remembers his primary goal. He tells her he is busy and feels confident. Aki appears, notices him with Futaba and says it must be nice to be so popular. Masamune realizes Aki is jealous and says he won't go out with someone who has no feelings. She asks him who he would go out with, and he says he would go out with her. She thanks him, and Masamune asks for her number. He thinks everything is going too easy until Aki says her phone is being repaired and they will have to wait another hour. They agree to meet in the same classroom the next week. He waits, but she doesn't show up. Masamune finds a letter that leads him to find several others, making him walk around the entire school. The last letter leads him to the same classroom, telling him to look out the window. Outside, Aki is holding a sign saying she refuses to go out with him. Masamune gets very angry, and Yoshino appears, saying that with her help, he will have several phones and dates. She gives him her number. Futaba arrives in the classroom announcing that anyone with below-average grades will have to attend a recovery month. They watch Shuri eating peacefully, but he says he needs 2 digits to pass the test, and they are shocked at how bad he is. Futaba says he'll have to attend the recovery month because losing weight will make him look even more passive. She imagines Masamune and Shuri together. Masamune invites Shuri to start studying, and Futaba is happy to see them together. They go to the study hall and find Aki helping Yoshino study. Aki is surprised that Masamune is teaching someone since he falls for something so simple. Masamune proposes a bet that whoever gets the highest score will have to go out with the other. If she wins, she can give him any nickname she wants, and he will have to wear it on his back until he graduates. Yoshino asks Aki if she won't study because Masamune got the highest score in his transfer. She is shocked because she thought he was just a narcissist. Yoshino gives her a guide and a cute tiara in case she loses. She calls Masamune to say she can't help him because she has her own moment to act. Shuri says he's trying his best, but if he loses, he'll ask her to give him a nickname too. His mother and sister are surprised to see him studying instead of working out. He goes to get something to drink and ends up meeting Yoshino, who gives him coffee. The test starts, and he feels a strong stomach ache, imagining that Yoshino put something in his drink. When it's over, he leaves the classroom angry and goes after Aki, but she didn't go to school because she has a fever. He receives a message from his sister warning him that the omelette their mother made was spoiled, but he still ends up in recovery and finds Aki in the living room. Yoshino calls him to let him know that their date will be on Sunday. Aki waits for him at the designated location dressed in a magical girl anime cosplay. He asks why she's dressed like that, and Aki explains that it's a basic rule to break the ice on the first date by wearing a costume. She rents out an entire cinema just for the two of them, and they end up watching a scary movie. They go out to eat, and Masamune asks if she always eats that much. Aki tells him that something terrible happened in the past, which is why she eats so much. A child approaches and asks why she's dressed strangely, and Aki gets angry, but Masamune takes her out of the restaurant. He apologizes but doesn't know how to tell her that the ritual isn't normal. Aki notices the looks around her, so she decides to go buy some clothes. She ends up crying in the changing room, but Masamune hears her. When he enters to see what's wrong, she punches him. He remembers that in the past, he was overweight and had problems, and he ended up in front of her mansion. She was as tough as the other boys but told him he had to be strong. He wakes up from fainting in her lap and remembers that she can also be caring. Aki realizes that he's awake and says she's leaving. On the way home, Masamune calls Yoshino and tells her how conceited Aki is. Yoshino explains that she's helping him because she believes Aki needs to reflect more on herself, and maybe when he rejects her, it will make her a little more humble. Masamune agrees but says that lying in her lap was a bit too much and that he almost fell in love with her. He ends the call by saying he hopes to be able to count on her help again, calling her Master. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews of the best anime. A kiss from your captain, and until next time.